Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. It's specifically aimed at sales and marketing leaders. We're aiming to cut through the BS that exists in the CRM market and share the learnings that we've gathered from our recent piece of market research, the CRM Opinion Exchange. This was completed by 76 sales and marketing leaders in the US and the UK. I think it's fair to say that uniting these two functions under one leader can be a big step to business growth. But unifying the functions on the same technology platform is very different and actually quite difficult, and often outside people's comfort zones. So what's the purpose of today's webinar? The session is focused on that piece of technology that in an ideal world would bind everything together in your operations, from lead gen to customer insights to revenue reporting and analysis, namely the CRM system. And today's goal can be summed up in one word: happiness. This isn't a self-help show though, and we're not talking about life in general. We mean happiness in terms of your CRM system. And we've chosen the word happy with good reason, because our research clearly shows that having a CRM is not enough on its own. Being CRM happy is more than just a feeling. It actually links to the key indicators of a high-functioning operation: more leads, better reporting, and ultimately more revenue. So today we want to help those in sales and marketing leadership roles to find that happiness by sharing insights and top tips, showing how you can swerve the BS in the marketplace, and informing great decisions about how to raise your CRM game. A quick note about housekeeping. Please do ask questions as we go along, not just at the end. Just type them into the question box at the top of the screen. We'll review them at the end and hopefully answer any burning issues you have. And then just by way of introductions, so I'm Dan Roach. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at Workbooks. And my role today is to act as a facilitator. In case you don't know, Workbooks are a CRM vendor who specialize in supporting mid-market firms on a global basis. And we also help our customers with onboarding, implementation, and support, which is why we were really interested to commission this research. I'm delighted to be joined by Chris Robinson, who's the founder and managing director of Boost Evaluation, whose firm led the Opinion Exchange market research we're sharing today, and his role is to highlight the key findings. And last but not least, I'm delighted that we're joined by Penny Lowe, who's the SVP for Workbooks in North America. Penny has deep experience of advising and supporting companies to develop their CRM strategy and implementation roadmaps, and her role is to provide the insights and the advice to you based on the research findings. So without further ado, I will hand over to Penny to kick things off.
Thank you, Dan, and welcome everyone. Before we get into the detail, I'd like to ask you to respond to a quick poll. For some on this webinar today, your CRM is a source of pride, but for others, it's a source of pain. So let's find out where you all are on that scale. If your CRM platform is a source of pride, please vote yes. If it's a source of pain, please vote no. And if you don't have a CRM, select NA. Just give you a couple of minutes to get that finished off. Great, thank you. So we can see the results on the screen here. I think you've all finished now. Yes, you're all finished. So the majority on this webinar are look like you're happy. You've got your CRM as a source of pride. That's quite surprising, actually, given the research that we did. But obviously, you're all here to understand how to make your CRM a source of pride, or to make it more of a source of pride if you already are quite happy with it. So let's move on to the challenge that sales and marketing leaders often face, which I suspect you can all relate to. Often you're balancing the more long-term goals of marketing with the more short-term goals of sales. You're often spinning plates with both sales and marketing teams involved, and priorities pulling you as a leader in every which way. You have to maintain an external view of the marketplace while keeping a close eye on your operations, and ensuring that every link in the chain contributes to revenue generation, from your first contact by marketing to the repeat business by sales, and that there are no weak links. And unfortunately, often you're managing people issues. There, of course, should be perfect harmony between sales and marketing, but tension occurs all too often, along with a them and us mindset. So on top of everything else you're trying to do, you need to be a diplomat and a master collaborator. And then thinking about sort of data and systems management, each team has different inputs and outputs, different tasks and expectations from the technology and the data. And you as the leader are somehow expected to unite all of this within one ecosystem.
Challenge is CRM should be part of a solution, not part of your problem. CRM should be where the sales and marketing unite rather than collide. And a majority of those contributing to our survey who have a CRM systems are not actually happy with theirs, as Penny alluded to earlier. And those that did not have a CRM system tended to rely on things like Excel, and others used tools within software like Outlook and maybe their accounting software. So focusing on those with a CRM system, only 31% of those with CRM systems say that it does the job. The rest are either aware that they need something better or are actively looking for another system. So only half of those who took part could honestly say of a system, I am happy. None agreed with the statement, it's great. So clearly, if you aren't happy with your CRM system, you have three options. Option one, do nothing. Option two, fix or improve your current CRM system. Option three is change your CRM system. And the data and the suggestions and stories from the survey are clear here. If you can take option one, or do nothing, off the table, then do. But what was eye-opening is that approximately 2/3 of those who said, I want something better, were largely leaning towards option one because they felt, in their words, stuck. And we asked those who said that their current system wasn't perfect, but they don't want to change, what is standing between you and a better CRM system? And we gave them multiple options to tick. This is what they said. 55% said they wouldn't change because of staff disruption if they did. 45% ticked the option that they wouldn't change due to the cost impact. 36% said that they wouldn't change due to the time impact. And other things like inadequate functionality and overcomplicated technology were also factors, but as you can see on the graph, less so. So overall, these people believe that the disruption, the cost, the time involved in changing a CRM system would be too great. But I'd ask them, what about the cost of not changing? As Dan mentioned earlier, our goal isn't just having a CRM, it's achieving CRM happiness. So he used this term very deliberately because in this research we ran on behalf of Workbooks, we found that having a CRM is not a silver bullet. In fact, it can be worse than not having a CRM at all. And the upticks in terms of key performance areas are substantial when you move from having a CRM you are unhappy with to having one you are happy with. So let's quantify this. Let's zoom in on one key performance area in particular, communicating with customers. This is clearly critical to all aspects of sales and marketing. And here we can see that the score for those that are happy with their CRM is the highest average score out of 10, score in the middle, while the score for those unhappy with their CRM on the right is lower than those with no CRM at all, those on the left. This next graph is in the same structure, happy in the middle, unhappy on the right, no CRM on the left. But instead of looking at customer communications, which was in dark green, it's now in black, we looked at a host of other key areas, from lead generating to reporting. Each is a different color. So for example, automating data entry is olive green. We're going to talk about that later. And keeping track of the pipeline is pink. Forecasting is light blue. In each case, you can see that those happy with the CRM are experiencing greater operational performance than those that are unhappy. So the cost of remaining unhappy is high and clearly accumulative over time. Also, in many cases, the scores for those without CRMs are higher than those with CRMs but are unhappy. So looking at the survey again, if this business case isn't enough in its own, what other things might convince people, like those of you who put their hands up about your system being a source of pain, to tick no earlier, what would convince people like you to change? So we explicitly asked those who were unhappy but reluctant to change, what would persuade you to change CRM provider? Again, they were able to tick multiple options. 77%, the highest scoring thing, which is highlighted there, said that they wanted software that's easier to use. massive vote there. 46% said a new CRM that can help us meet our goals before paying anything. 31% said better customer service, 23% said a lower price. So the lesson here is that if you draw up a list of the must-haves, like things like this list, whichever ones are specific to you, like this, and ensure your list has all its boxes ticked by whatever solution you move to, whether it's the same or a new one, then you can justify to team members and leaders and all stakeholders when to press go. And we're going to cover many of these similar things as top tips later.
Okay, thank you, Chris. And it seems that from the research so far, many of you are in the same situation, that you want to change CRM, but are hesitant. So whether you're considering fixing your existing situation or changing your system, let me talk you through a few BS moves that many vendors like to pull, as forewarned is forearmed. So hidden functionality charges. Simply ask the vendor what's included in the price you quoted and what's extra. Secondly, a lack of clarity on who will provide the implementation support and how much this will cost. Ask your vendor how much will it cost to get help with the implementation, but more importantly, who's actually going to do the work. And if they tell you an implementation partner is doing the rollout and not the vendor, is the partner under pressure to lowball the quote so the deal gets done, which can lead to nasty surprises a bit further down the line. Another common stunt is not mentioning the risks and hurdles. So ask them, what challenges might I face during setup and what SLAs do you offer? And then finally, not helping with training and support. So ask them what you do when you have a problem. For example, would you be able to call someone directly, or would they direct you to a help desk that's basically an AI chatbot? And then make sure you ask how much extra you need to pay to guarantee that decent level of support.
Thanks, Dan. And now that you've heard about some of the pitfalls of CRM, let's look at the top tips from those sales and marketing leaders who contributed to the survey. The checklist we've created from the responses is ordered based on the strongest responses from the survey. And at the end, we'll present the list in an execution order that we believe makes most sense if you're looking to implement or re-implement CRM. So the first tip is all about ease of use. So this should be helpful for those changing or deciding whether to change or not.
So the survey included a list of possible things that would put people off changing their CRM. They're listed as the fears there. And then the top negative quality here was technology that is complicated to use, 77%. And yet when we asked what might inspire people to change, so listed as the hopes on the left, ease of use, similarly, was the top response. So clearly this is something we need to explore.
Yeah, and there's no way around this really. You need to obviously get demonstrations and maybe also test drive what your existing CRM may be capable of, as well as research and engage in demonstrations of other CRMs that are out there, both from a user and an administrator perspective. However, word of caution here, just be a bit pragmatic. There are over 800 CRMs when you look at some of the business software comparison sites, and life is far too short to compare them all. So try to get to an initial list of no more than, say, 10 to start with, and then very quickly get down to 3 or 4 for detailed discussions with vendors. And as user experience is so important, you really should get under the skin of what systems can achieve before making a decision to change or not, and if so, which system. And then, picking up on the CRM industry BS that Dan mentioned earlier, they will often bamboozle you about functionality you don't actually need, or either finding a way to hide unwanted functionality or finding a way to make the interface look super user-friendly, but without any real substance underneath. So then thinking about your CRM selection team, don't just let your tech team choose, as they will probably go for the most feature-rich system, perhaps even, selfishly, what they want for their own career development. One survey contributor rightly said, let the team kick the tires and have a voice. They are your users. They must like the system. Otherwise, you will find yourself in the unhappy bucket. And again, thinking of that CRM selection team, pick them carefully. Sales reps, who are obviously very key contributors, but some of them may choose the CRM that is least burdensome for them, which does not give marketing colleagues or management what they need. And vice versa, marketing or management may want too much Big Brother tracking or data entry that is impractical for your sales team. And then when you're down to your final 2 CRM vendors, don't forget to ask for customer references and include that important ease of use and user feedback in your questions. But obviously bear in mind, no vendor is going to introduce you to one of their unhappy customers. So now moving on to our second top tip, and this is about thinking about the future. Make sure you invest in CRM software that will work both now and in the future. One respondent in the tech sector in the US rightly commented, invest in system infrastructure early and with processes built for scale. And we wholeheartedly agree with this. Ask yourself, what will I need over the next 12 to 18 months, bearing in mind our likely business direction for the next 5 years, as well as what do I need now, and ensure the infrastructure, data framework and software can cope. But don't worry too much about that 5-year horizon because your business and the marketplace changes so quickly. So really focus on the next 12 to 18 months rather than the 5-year horizon. And most importantly, start with why CRM at all. So what are your goals to increase revenue, reduce operational cost, improve customer experience, and enable better KPI and data visibility across your business? This is your business case and ROI for CRM, whether you're enhancing your existing CRM, looking to replace it, or implementing for the first time. The potential gains from doing CRM well often far outweigh the license and implementation cost of CRM. So that gain is really important to quantify. If your current system that you're unhappy with is unlikely to scale with you, then we would suggest you change sooner rather than later because you're losing out on all of those potential gains. But again, don't overdo it. Many of the best known CRM brands are often built for enterprise organizations. If you've opted to work with this kind of provider, you may find yourself paying for functionality that you don't need, alongside complex features, intimidating user interfaces, and needing large CRM admin teams. There are very powerful CRM options out there specifically built for mid-size or smaller organizations. So only consider these and swerve the enterprise systems, even if they are exciting sounding brands. Moving on to tip number 3, we're thinking about integration. So many survey respondents appreciate the ability to integrate their CRM with other tools, marketing tools such as MailChimp, sales and operations tools such as CreditSafe, and back-end finance tools such as Xero, just to mention a few. This might mean more work for your tech team initially, but less work for users in the long run, embedding all of your key business processes in a workflow that makes sense for your users. One respondent from the UK energy sector commented, "We have used it for years and know what we need from it and run it alongside other software alongside it." The message here is to consider these integrations in advance when choosing your future system. And as with our previous tip, consider the future integrations. If a vital integration is impossible, then this is an important factor in whether you should switch platforms or not.
Second biggest put off for people considering a change was poor setup support. 62% voted for that. And while there was also a bit of negativity about a third-party consultant, not the CRM provider, carrying out your implementation, and because that got 23% voting for it.
Thanks, Chris. And sadly, these are both likely systems of picking software which is so large that it outsources implementation to consultants who charge at every stage, and which has limited after-sales support. Research this carefully and factor this into decision making. CRM overspends are usually down to a CRM provider not taking the time to understand their client. So make sure you get consultancy before you sign the contract. This way you'll get a roadmap for your project and predicted costs, so there are no surprises.
And reinforcing that point, costs weren't considered the most significant factor in making a change, but a word of warning, a majority of those taking part, 52%, overspent. And this was split between a third attributing this to integration and added functionality, and 18% saying it occurred during implementation.
That's really interesting, Chris, but this may also be a symptom of businesses having unrealistic expectations of the cost of CRM. It is a critical strategic business asset when done properly, and needs an appropriate budget to reflect this.
Well, similarly, capped functionality for which you have to pay more was the third most cited turnoff with choosing suppliers. 54% voted for this, so ensure you tread with care here.
And it's important to note that some providers offer different implementation options and packages to fit limited budgets. So check out those more affordable providers and payment schedules in your research. Ideally, get as much scoping and evidence of suitability before parting with any money at all. Many providers who don't use third parties for implementation will willingly offer this.
Earlier, we shared a graph, changing the subject a bit, but of how people performed when happy with their CRM, unhappy with their CRM, or no CRM at all. The lowest scoring KPI in process was automated data entry. That said, it also had the biggest difference in scores. Those with a CRM, whether unhappy or happy, scored 5 out of 10, not a great score. But those with no CRM scored 3 out of 10.
And automation is a potentially massive win in terms of team productivity, user experience, and marketing effectiveness. You know, when we talk about those with no CRM scoring 3 out of 10, remember that those with no CRM were using Excel, Outlook, or maybe the functionality in their ERP or finance systems. So they weren't doing it all with pen and paper. And it is possible that your existing CRM system could offer more automation than you're currently benefiting from. If your current platform doesn't support this, then there are CRM solutions out there with varying automation features. Make sure they're included in your package to start saving time and ensure the support offered covers this. A personalized consultative approach to implementation by a single party vendor will help ensure you get everything you need from a CRM. So then moving on to tip 7, which is about customization or configuration. Several comments highlighted the importance of having a CRM system that can be tailored to specific business and industry needs. This is absolutely an ingredient for success. Any quality system will allow this, and implementation support teams will support you. Some example comments are shown on the screen. We created the system tailored to suit our specific requirements. That was from construction and real estate in the UK. And track every step of the process for pipeline visibility. That was from an advertising and marketing executive in the US. So tailoring a system well will make the user experience feel more appropriate and allow you to make the processes and data suit you. A good implementation partner should challenge you if any of your processes are inefficient and could achieve better results by being adjusted. So listen to them carefully when they ask you why. They're not just being difficult, they just understand why you do it the way you do it. But again, another word of warning, too much customization that strays outside of the easy to find functionality can A, really slow down your implementation, and B, make future technical support harder. So strike the right balance here. Some tailoring is worth it, but don't go mad. And then the final one is about data quality. And again, a lot of the respondents' comments stressed that data quality is mission critical. Both sales and marketing teams not only have a role to play in keeping the data about clients and their history accurate themselves, they also will only trust the platform if others in the process are doing so too. And this can lead to either a vicious or a virtuous circle. As respondents said, again, comments on the screen, the data is only as good as the person who is supplying it. And that was someone in the manufacturing engineering sector in the US, and still needs discipline and keeping maintenance and activity as a high priority. CRM itself is not a silver bullet, and that was somebody in the UK from professional services. Over to Dan.
Okay, thanks Penny, and thanks Chris for such great insights. So much good stuff in there. And now we're going to run through a Q&A. So I've been keeping my eye on the questions that have been coming in while Penny and Chris have been going through the stats and the facts. And we've got one here which says, even if my CRM vendor offers support, should I get a third-party consultant anyway? Perhaps that's something you can answer, Penny.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think like most things, it kind of depends. So if you already have a CRM and well-defined processes, then I would rely on the CRM vendors team. However, if you are struggling to build the business case or roadmap, or your business processes need an overhaul, a business consultant can really help you with here. So some CRM vendors have these consultants on staff. And for example, that's my day job. I advise businesses on CRM strategy, often regardless of whether they select Workbooks or not, although clearly my goal is to help you choose Workbooks if it's a good fit.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you for that, Penny. And then perhaps this one is better for Chris. And it's, did people give any indication of how difficult their implementation was in practice in the survey?
Well, we haven't shared any graphs specifically about this, but a lot of the questions implied how it was. And I did actually spend a bit of time looking through row by row data and sort of mentally clocked a few patterns. There wasn't any pattern I spotted in terms of people suggesting it was difficult, whether they were happy with it or unhappy with it. But it didn't look like the people who were happy with it had some easy ride. And I don't think it would be fair to paint a picture that the journey to CRM happiness was super easy. It is a journey, and as Penny has indicated, you have to do it thoroughly. You have to do it well. You can't just get something out of a box and implement it and boom, it works. So there was nothing but painted a picture of tremendous pain, but I saw some comments and I did see a few scores that related to this that suggested that if it's done well, it does take a fair chunk of time and money and resource and energy. So I'm not going to pretend that happiness can be achieved effortlessly. So that's what I took away from the research.
Okay, good insights. Thank you, Chris. And then let's answer this one. How do I ensure a test drive is effective? I don't have time to implement a pilot for each CRM. And maybe Penny, you can cover this one.
Another great question. I think the best way to answer this is with a couple of analogies. So if you think about buying a car, it's fairly easy to undertake a test drive. Some simple instruction on which side the indicators are is often all you need. Similarly, buying a house, you can test drive it because you can walk around it. You can turn the taps on, you can see how the shower runs and so on. But if you were planning on building from scratch or remodeling a home, you can't try it on for size. You can't try the shower. You can't, do any of those things. You can't even visualize the garden. So you need to rely on architects, planners, interior designers, landscapers, and so on to help you visualize and make decisions and handhold you through that process. And CRM selection is quite similar to that. So I would say rather than investing a lot of time in trying to do a pilot, which involves, to be effective, you need to migrate some data, you need to get some of your team to run 2 or 3 pilots, perhaps side by side. I would say rely on the vendor and ask for a tailored demo using a sample set of your data from your finance system or your spreadsheets or whatever you've been using to really show you the art of the possible. It will be much quicker doing that and take an awful lot less of your time and give you a much better idea of selecting the right solution. That would be my advice.
Okay, nice. I love those analogies. And yeah, let's leave it there for the Q&A. And Penny, I'll pass it back to you to kind of recap the key points of what we've gone through today, and then perhaps run through some next steps for people in terms of what they should be doing with their CRM based on what they've learned today.
Great, thanks, Dan. So whether you're looking to enhance your existing CRM deployment or change to a new system. So if you remember, these are the main messages we talked about. So understanding your business goals and how CRM will support those. So remember, I talked about increasing revenue, reducing operational cost, improving customer experience, and increasing visibility of KPIs and metrics across the business. That is your business case. That is your justification for doing CRM. And those results can be quite enlightening. I run workshops with customers quite regularly on those kind of metrics. The second point was about making sure your chosen system can scale with you. Do you remember I talked about 12 to 18 month horizon, bearing in mind the general direction for the 5 years, but not worry too much about what do you need in 5 years' time, because it will have changed. Then the third point is about integrations. What software and tools would the team have to swivel chair into to complete the business process? Unfortunately, all too often, many CRMs stop at a closed won opportunity. They don't do the order processing or the fulfillment. So make sure your system can do the end-to-end process. Then automation. So think about, again, what can you automate to make sure that the system is as easy to use as possible. And again, the tailoring. But again, as I said, don't go mad. It's more important to get phase one up and running quickly and getting the benefits of those in terms of revenue and cost and so on, than spending 9 months trying to get it perfect. And then obviously get your costings up front for consultancy licenses and any add-ons you might need. There are an awful lot of vendors that have app style exchanges and so on, and you can spend as much money on the apps that you need as you do on your CRM license. So be very careful there. And then thinking about next steps. So obviously make sure you get a copy of the research report that Chris has been talking about today, where all those statistics came from. Build that business case for doing option one, for making sure you don't do option one, the do nothing option, take it off the table. And obviously the report and this webinar would hopefully help you there. Engage your team members, plus the admins and your business leaders in the journey from the decision making all the way through testing and the new system. Reach out to your existing vendor and any others out there that are suitable for your businesses of your size and experience in your sector. And then obviously start preparing a timeline and a budget and get going would be my advice. Thanks, Dan.
Okay, yeah, brilliant stuff. I've certainly learned a lot today, and I hope everyone who's joined has also learned as much as I have. So yeah, thank you very much, Penny. Thank you very much, Chris, for being with us and sharing your knowledge with everyone. So we'll now close out the webinar. Thanks obviously to everyone who joined. I wish you all the best of luck in avoiding the CRM BS and instead finding CRM happiness. Thank you very much.
Thank you.